It's been a while, but we're back with another Destiny 2 build, and today we're going to be taking a pass at Void Titans finally, and we're going to be looking at the newly buffed Second Chance. Now, this exotic is actually not too bad. It wasn't bad before, but now it's even better. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to keep seeing more. Check out that membership stuff down below, and let's have a quick word from our sponsor. Mentioned in the beginning of this video, the exotic we're going to be looking at today is Second Chance, which comes with the exotic trait Myrmidon's Reach. Gain a second charge of your shield throw melee. Your shield throw melee now weakens targets and becomes shield piercing stunning barrier champion. When you stun a barrier champion with your shield throw melee, you regain a melee charge. This exotic feels a lot better since they buffed it. Being able to weaken a group of adds, champions, and bosses is probably my favorite part about this exotic now. Granted, it can stun barrier champions, however the weakest part of this particular exotic is the shield throw melee itself, because the tracking is not good and it still needs work. You can look directly at a target and it will either track the wrong one, miss completely, and the tracking on the bounce is no better. But even with that in mind, this exotic is extremely fun and even useful if you're not going against barrier champions due to that weakening effect. And it does even better when paired with Monte Carlo, as it takes it to a whole different level of fun and usefulness, as this season we have anti-barrier auto rifle, so that can help if you don't have a shield throw ready. However, with its intrinsic trait, the Monte Carlo method, you should almost always have a shield, as dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully recharge your melee ability with each kill. Just by hitting targets, we get a reduction to our melee cooldown, with the chance of having it fully give us a charge is an amazing pick for this build, and since we're having our melee a lot, we can take advantage of its other trait, Markov Chain. This weapon grants increased damage from melee kills, and kills with this weapon, melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. With us getting melee kills, we can increase this weapon's damage by giving us that full 5 stacks of Markov Chain, which I believe is a slightly better version of Swashbuckler, but if you have more information about that, then please let me know and I will pin that comment. But Monte Carlo overall is an amazing choice with this particular build, and I had a ton of fun with it. I always forget how good Monte Carlo is until I use it. Also, there's a speculation that this is the exotic that is getting the fancy new difficult to make catalyst next season, so keep that in mind as well when moving forward with this build, is that Monte Carlo may be getting a really good, really interesting catalyst, but we don't know for sure. Moving on to our class setup, we're going to start with Controlled Demolition. Hitting a target with a void ability or a volatile explosion makes them volatile. Further damage to a volatile target makes them explode, grants you and nearby allies health when volatile targets explode near you. With this aspect, our shield will now weaken from our exotic arms, and now they will spread volatile when they're bouncing between targets, as well as giving us health back when we defeat these targets. We're also going to take Offensive Bulwark. While you have an Overshield or inside Ward of Dawn, your grenade recharges significantly faster. You have increased melee range and damage, and melee final blows extend the duration of your Overshield. You gain an additional shield throw while in Sentinel Shield. Every time our throwing shield hits a target, we're going to get a little bit of an Overshield, meaning we will get that increased grenade regen, and more importantly, we're going to get that additional melee damage to help with smaller targets, which could lead to volatile explosions to heal you and your fire team. For our fragments, we're going to start with Echo of Provision. Damaging a target with grenades grants melee energy with a -10 to strength. When we have an Overshield, we're going to get our grenade cooldown reduced. So with that in mind, we're going to use this so we can get our melee back faster in order to throw more shields on top of Monte Carlo to get more grenades and be able to just repeat the cycle, which is also going to feed into Echo of Exchange. Melee final blows grant grenade energy. We're going to use this to help our grenades come back faster and help us get our melees back faster in turn from our grenades. With the bonus damage from Offensive Bulwark alongside the weaken from Second Chance and the volatile from Controlled Demolitionist, we should be able to easily pick off targets to help with our grenade energy to feed back into Provision, making it a nice loop with these two fragments. If you don't need more grenade energy, I recommend replacing this with Echo of Persistence so our Overshields stick around a little longer. We're also going to take Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour with melee -10 to recovery. Survivability is always needed, even more so in high-end content, so with this ability to get devoured from orbs or void breaches, it's a major benefit. And to make these breaches, we're simply going to take Echo of Cessation. Finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile, and defeating volatile targets create a void breach. Our abilities will make these targets volatiles with the help from Controlled Demo, so that will allow us to keep a steady stream of these void breaches to feed into our Devourer as well as our artifact, which is going to include obviously void and melee authorization mods to make these particular mods cheaper for us to use in this build. We're then going to take a look at the juicy stuff, which includes Onto the Breach, which when defeating a void debuff target creates a void breach while your void subclass is equipped. With the volatile and weaken from our throwing shields, we'll be able to make more than enough void breaches to help us with protective breach, where when we pick up one of these void breaches, we're going to get an overshield. Again, we have a ton of void breaches to pick up, so we'll have this overshield up a lot. It's going to refresh when we pick up another void breach, which is huge for offensive bulwark, giving us that bonus to melee damage. Finally, we're going to look at Supernova. When picking up a void breach, your next source of void damage causes a large weakening pulse. Now I believe this weaken is a 15% debuff like the normal weakening debuff from our subclass, and this is very helpful in combination with our throwing shields now weakening, so we can make more void breaches to play into our other perks. For our armor, we're going to start with our helmet, and we're going to take double kinetic siphon, so we can make orbs with Monte Carlo, and with a double stack we can make those orbs slightly better. We're also going to take hands-on, so when we get melee defeats we'll get some super energy. With these two mods you can swap them out. You can either take one stack of kinetic and get the orbs from that way, and then a double stack of hands-on to get more super energy, which is what I should have done in hindsight, so keep that in mind. Double hands-on is definitely the better move here. On our arms, we have heavy-handed, as this is a very melee-heavy build, so we can make orbs with our melee defeats. Melee kickstart, so we can spend our armor charge stacks to get more melee energy back when we use our melee, which I found to be very helpful in order to throw even more shields. Lastly, on our arms, we have impact induction to help our grenade cooldowns just a little more. As of making this video, I believe that this mod is currently out of the game. I don't know why. I wasn't paying attention to why there was a bug, but it's out of the game right now, so just throw it back in when you get the chance. On our chest, we simply have charged up to hold more stacks of armor charge and our resist mods. On our legs, we're going to take stacks on stacks, so we can pick up an orb and have it count for 2 stacks of armor charge over the usual one. We're also going to be taking innervation and invigoration, so when we pick up orbs, we can get some energy back to both our melee and our grenade to help with the rotation of our abilities. And on our mark, we have powerful attractor, so when we do place our barricade, we can pull nearby orbs to us. In doing so, we will also make use of Reaper, so the next weapon defeat we get will also make an orb of power. And finally, we have outreach, so we can get some melee energy back when we do use our barricade, but you can really take whatever you want here that you have room for. As for stats, I'm pretty happy with what I have. High resilience for quicker barricade cooldown, and high strength for our throwing shield. If I could have more intellect, that'd be really good, but obviously beggars can't be choosers, and that's something that I can work on. All in all, this exotic is actually pretty good. The weakening effect is amazing. The ability to throw your shield and pop a barrier and get that shield back is also really good. It has a lot of potential and high-end gameplay, and honestly I find this build to be really helpful running Lost Sectors solo, because this frees up my primary weapon to do whatever I need it to do if you don't run Monte Carlo. However, the downside of this build is the throwing shield melee itself. You know, the whole reason you run this build is for the throwing shield, and its ability to track is just not good. Like, if they were to buff the tracking on this shield in just PvE, I feel like this exotic would shine even more, as the lack of tracking on these throwing shields have always been my problem since Void 3.0 started. It plays this really cool fantasy of being this Void Captain America, but I never saw Captain America miss his shields like my Void Titan whiffs his, and it's really unfortunate. So hopefully that's a buff that they're going to look at in the future, for like increase the tracking on the throwing shield for future patches, or like just even in PvE. This doesn't have to be a PvP buff. We know they can split the sandbox. They've done it before. So just increase the tracking in PvE, and I think this build will be amazing. But with that, that is the entire build video. My opinions, the slight review that I'm going to try to start doing for most of these exotics and the builds I make for them. So again, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the membership stuff down below. I'll leave a dim link to this build also down below. If it's not there, you can call me out in the comments, so this way I remember to put it there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.